Welcome from Indianapolis. I am Derwin Smiley, and this is the Derwin Smiley Show. I am glad you are with me, and the show starts right now. I am honored to have Miss Eula McKinnie on the show today to talk about her horrific loss of losing her son, Antwan Germany, on December the 2nd of 2013. Ms. McKinnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Smiley.
Actually, I just want to tell you how honored I am to have you on the show, and I know you are one of the strongest individuals I can know besides my mother. The horrific loss you have went through, and I just want you to know I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on and talk about this loss. So, starting off, tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm a daughter of 13 children, my mom and dad, and I came from Tennessee, from the South. And
did you say 13 children?
13 children.
There was 10 of us. So we have something in common, coming from some big families.
Yes. So later in life, my mom and dad did separate, and so she brought several of the little ones, we call the 4 little ones, and including us too, here to Indianapolis. And there we went to school, high school, Broad Ripple. I went to school 69 by 34th and Keystone, out there where my son was, murdered. And so from there, just being a single parent with 2 children, head of household, So we did a lot of things, my children and I, and they were my life. They are my life. My daughter is at this time. And, it's just really hard.
Tell me about growing up. You said 13 children. Tell me, how close was your family?
Oh, we was pretty knit. There are several lives in Tennessee, and one live in Racine, and the rest of us live here in Indianapolis. I'm trying to think. Am I missing anybody? Jackson, Tennessee, Humboldt, Tennessee, Gaston, Tennessee. So I am counting from the bottom, I am the 5th one. And from the top, that would be the 9th. Yes.
Tell me about, you said you were a single parent. Tell me through those years, you said you did a lot with your children. Tell me about some of the things you used to do with your kids.
Well, pretty much at the age of, after I had my son, which was July the 1st of 1977, I pretty much was really tired of that wild life that I lived. And so I've had turned myself to I gave myself to the Lord. And so that was in August of 1977. So pretty much my kids was like knee babies and toddler like. And so pretty much my life was churching, going to work, enjoying my children. We would sometimes go to the mall, ride the bus, the public, like Indigo, and until I later learned how to drive. And so those was challenges in my life. I quit school, having children, but I pretty much went back and got my GED, and later in life, I did more things to upgrade my skills. And so at this present time, I am at a well-known company, and just, I've been there over, I would say over 15 or 16 years. So the Lord has been good to me.
I want to ask you this. How important is your faith?
It is really important. I've never had anything like this to happen to me. Like I said, I was 18 pretty much when I did turn my life to Christ. And everything just escalated. I mean, my level of living was just higher and higher. I could not even imagine. And, you know, just the thought and the things that I try to put in my children to let them know this is real, and just letting them live their lives, but then yet choosing the best, you know, what was best for them. And so pretty much I raised them in church. They were babies. I raised them in church. That was pretty much, you know, it for them. And they did, my son did attend some camping, and you know, he got with the brothers, and the older brothers would take the younger brothers on this truck. They had a project, you know, the brotherhood had a project, and they would get the little young men to go and pick up the newspaper and all that recycled stuff, newspaper, glass, and cans, and it was really helpful for my son to be, you know, to be around men, you know, a good role model men. And
we have to take a break,
okay,
but stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We will now continue our conversation with Miss Eula McKinnie, talking about her great loss of her son, Antwan Germany, on December the 2nd, 2013. Ms. McKinnie, tell me about Antwan.
Oh, Antwan. He, wow. First of all, I would just like to say that I thank you very much for allowing me to express myself on your show. And but Antwan, he was full of surprises. He was really, when he put his mind to things, and because I knew he had it in him, you know, I'm just woman of faith, and I just believed that whatever he did, you know, constructively, that he would succeed over. And he has some life's challenges, and at the age of 18, he decided that things were going to change, and so he went away, went out from my home, and then later on, he found himself back home and trying to adjust his life back into the right path. And so he had dropped out of school, and he was successful with the and going back and getting his high school diploma. That was a challenge because those were things that he needed for a job. You know, felonies was a negative, but yet he had his high school diploma, and that made him go more after jobs. And then license. The license. He didn't have driver's license out there driving, but yet he succeeded in getting his license. And so after so many tickets was paid, I mean, that was over $1,000 of tickets. And but I had been there trying to support, and didn't want to make him you know, to enable him in doing the things that a man should do. But I knew that he needed that support. And so he was very excited. As a matter of fact, I think one of the channel TV station was there at BMV when he received his license, and it actually you can see him on their photo, and that was something great. And so he had succeeded in a training course, and that was another thing for them to, when he came from the wild life, and for him to be consistent and going through a course, and I believe it was like to be certified as a construction worker. But Antwan, he was very talented, he was a musician, he was excellent in drums, and he was a singer, and that was some of the things that we had in common. He had objectives, you know, where he wanted to, I believe he wanted to better things in life. He wanted better things in life. And the job seems to be one of the most hardest thing for him to have. was a full-time job. That was one of his struggles.
Tell me about how you are coping with the loss. Take me back to the night when it happened and up to today.
I couldn't believe what was told to me. We got 2 calls. The first call was like, they were informing me that he was in a bad accident. And, we waited until the call back to tell us what hospital, and never did until the second call came and they were letting me know he was passing. I rushed out. By that time, I was calling 911. I was calling different one I thought that knew something. And so my daughter had already made it over, and they was calling for me to come because at the time, he was gone. And so it was very hard, and it was a very cold night. It was very cold. Just coping with that, and just your mind just continued to go back to that day, and prior to that day, thinking about, was there a sign, or was there any type of sign there, and just going through it at this time. I have I would say, first of all, I have my church people, I have my friends, my very close friends, I have my co-workers, my managers. I didn't realize how many people was there for me. They were holding me up. I didn't have need of nothing. I thought I would. We wasn't prepared for funeral or any of that. None of that. I miss texting him. I miss calling him. It just seemed to be like a disconnection. It is a disconnection where that I used to be able to reach him some kind of way. If I didn't hear from him, I'm driving by, or I'm going by to see him, or else texting, or calling, just consistently calling. I call him any time of the day, even at wee hours of night. But just, to accept that, it's still hard. It has not. I'm accepting the fact that I will no longer see him, but there is hope. But however, I'm just really hurt. My daughter, sometimes we share conversation of encouragement, things that we heard or we read through the scriptures. If it wasn't for the Word of God, I would be probably somewhere in a real bad place right now.
What would you say? I know we have a lot of gun violence in our city. Last year was off the charts. This year, moving in that direction. What could you say? I want you to look at the camera right here. And what advice would you give to parents who see their children might not be listening to them, might going down a path? What can you give them to let them know that there's hope and never to give up on their children?
I would say be patient with them. These are grown children, some of them very grown. Teenagers, they going through their adolescent stage, and just be there to talk with them. They may brush you off. That was a lot of times that I had issues with my son, but I'm still there, just letting them know that you're still there to help them in any ways that you possibly can that is constructive to their lives. Encourage them to go back to school and get their high school diploma, a GED. Encourage them to continue to try to work somewhere. Just anything that will help them. They need to know that you really care. They really do. They really need. They might be telling you to leave them alone. You just stay away for a little while, but then just little by little, just call them or text them or whatever you can do just to let them know that you're there. Because if they don't hear from you, and then the world the streets out there will make them feel like that nobody cares about them. And that's not true. As a real parent, that's not true. That's not true. Just show them that you love them. Whatever you can do, just let them know you love them.
Miss McKinney, I just want you to know that, as I had said, I am very humble that you have agreed to come on and talk about this great loss. You didn't have to do it, and I just want you to know that we love you. My wife and I, the Smiley family, love you. Your church family, but that's a Temple Apostolic Church, loves you, and I know your co-workers, your friend.
Yes.
And if there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. She is Miss McKinney. Stay with us. I thank you for staying with us. Now I am honored once again to have an outstanding guest. He is the Reverend Dr. Charles Montgomery. I call him my friend. I call him my mentor. Reverend Doctor, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Also, I said my fraternity brother, Kappa Alpha Psi.
I'll forget that one.
I started out this show talking about gun violence, and I had Miss Eula McKinnie on talking about her great loss of her son, Antwan, on December the 2nd, 2013. And it didn't just affect her, it affected myself, it affected our church family, but that's the Temple Apostolic Church because he was a drummer. And I want to contrast or flip the script and let our community know that Indianapolis has some great history and some smart individuals who was brought up in Lockfield Gardens. And I was over at your house and you brought out the book and started showing me the picture. I think you was in the second grade and kindergarten. So
I believe it was.
Tell me about the rich history of Lockfield Gardens.
Okay. Lockfield Gardens, to my understanding, was one of the first federal housing projects that were to be built in the United States of America. I believe the first family moved into Lockfield around 1938, so years before I was born. But personally, I was born in Lockfield. Now, to be honest, I wasn't born in the apartments, but I was born across the street from Lockfield. And across the street from Lockfield was City Hospital. City Hospital went on to be called General Hospital. And then General Hospital went on to be called Wishart Hospital. And today, as you may know, they just closed Wishart Hospital, and now we have a new hospital that they built and take the place of the old Wishart Hospital. So that was right across the street from Lockfield Gardens. So I lived at 713 Lock Street, my sister and I, and there were probably about 748 units in Lockfield. And the beauty of it is, and today we still have those fond memories because Lockfield kind of went on the premise of that old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And in Lockfield we had rules and regulations. You couldn't walk on the grass, you couldn't pick the flowers. It was a beautiful place. And if you did, matter of fact, I have a personal incident when I saw some beautiful yellow flowers. I'll never forget it. I forget how old I was, but I had to be around 6 or 7 years old. And I picked the flowers and I got caught by one of the maintenance men. So naturally he asked me where I lived, and he took me to my home, to my apartment, and told my mother what I had done. And I later found out as I got older, she didn't punish me because she thought that was a sweet gesture. I wanted to bring my mother some flowers. But the rules were you couldn't pick the flowers or walk on the grass, and she was fined for that. But
did you say fine?
Fine. You had a fine if you walked on the grass, or you picked flowers, or anything like that. Try to destroy your family was fined. So she understood that, but yet still I didn't get punished because of the thought behind it. It wasn't malicious. It was something I wanted to do for my mother. That's the kind of mentoring we had at Lockfield. At that time, your mother, your parent could discipline me, and then take me to my parent, and then you know what happens after that. You got another discipline. So in that sense, the village raised all of us. So I knew how to act in front of everybody else because I didn't want to get in trouble not only with that person who was disciplining, but later on it would be taken to the family. So the village process, and we all, don't get me wrong, we had some difficulties. You know, young people always have some problem, but we never got it to the point of violence. Matter of fact, even if you were young men who want to fight it out, we would go through a ritual, certain rituals before you would fight. You would put a popsicle stick on your shoulder and say, now knock it off. And then the next step, draw a line and across the sand. And
so you really didn't want to fight.
You really didn't want to fight in the first place. So those were the kind of things we did to try to keep the peace. And then even if it did get to be a little skirmish, once it was over, it was forgotten about and we were friends again. So that's the kind of the favor of Lockfield. Was just a beautiful place, a beautiful atmosphere, and everybody tried their best to get along one with the other.
I think when I was talking with you at your house about this topic, you was telling me that in Lockfield you had your poor. You're always going to have your poor, but you also had your educated individuals. You had the doctors, you had the lawyers.
Well, see, Lockfield, to my understanding, was supposed to be built for low-income families. But let's be honest, it was also segregation. I don't recall any whites in Lockfield. So therefore, those people in Lockfield happened to be we had people like my father was a construction worker. He made decent money at that time, postal workers. So we had upper mobile young black people who lived there and people who had jobs. My mother was one who called a domestic, working in white people's homes. So we had money. We didn't consider ourselves to be poor. You know, we knew we didn't have a lot, but we were never hungry. We were never dirty. We were fairly, we had nice schooling. So everything seemed to be great. Matter of fact, when I was 11 years old, and my mother came to my sister and I and said that we had to move. I said, well, why we got to move? She said, well, they say we make too much money, and they began to evict those people who were at a certain income level. And matter of fact, I can recall that me and my sister, we actually cried because we loved being in Lockfield. That was the place to be.
What would you say to the youth today with all this violence, gun violence going on? How can we win back or take back our youth?
Well, you know what I saw in Lockfield? Let me give you for instance. In Lockfield, School 24 was the school that was right sort of on the edge of Lockfield. And School 24 is where the Dust Bowl tournament started. And I can remember the PAL Club being there. And Officer Watkins and Officer Gaines. And those gentlemen, when they saw you acting up, they were right on your case. I remember their names right today. Matter of fact, Officer Gaines, one of his sons, is a Kappa brother. He's deceased now. But they would keep us in check. And they would have the programs there for us to get involved in. And as you know, the Dust Bowl tournament is world renowned at this point. People such as Oscar Robertson, Bill Brown, and all those who played on the court. And many of them became famous in the city and throughout the country because they had that self-discipline, and we had people who would let us know when we were wrong and do it in a mannerly way. I think where we missed the boat is that the parents, the grown-ups, don't take charge. That's where we have lost something, because I was glad that I had other people other than my parents discipline me. When I look back on it, that was the best thing that could happen. And I think
but you can't try that now, Frank.
But why not? If I see some young man out of order, I'm gonna let him know. And I've had people tell me, well, you get hurt doing it. Well, you know, somebody got to step up to the plate. And I'm still here.
So
I think if you know how to do it, there's a way to talk to somebody. And so I think that's where we kind of let down, because now the parents take the child's side, and then they don't know what their children are doing outside of, I'm the founder of the Martin Luther King Center. I can remember young people coming to our center, and we had to discipline them, and we would say that to their parents, and parents say, well, my son wouldn't do that. You don't know what your son's doing when he's not at home. So don't disregard what I'm saying, work with me. And I think that's where we kind of missed the boat. We don't trust other individuals, especially grown people, to tell us what our children are doing, and then support them in that discipline.
I got one minute, like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Something you said you founded the Martin Luther King Center.
Yes.
Tell me about how that came about.
Well, it's a long story. We won't be able to do it in a short period of time. But
30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, in 1976 is when I took over the Butler Tarkland Center, and we realized that people were asking for more services than we were able to provide. And so I went to Mayor William H. Hutnut, and they had a study done called the Neighborhood Housing Services Study, and it showed that we needed different services on the north side of Indianapolis because the demographics had changed. And that was the start of the vision of the Martin Luther King Center. And we named it after Dr. King because I was a minister, and the board president at that time, Mr. C. Lee Crane, said, well, Charles, what do you think? And I said, he's a minister, I'm a minister, let's name it in his honor. And so in 1987, we named it the Martin Luther King Center.
He is the Reverend Dr. Charles Montgomery. Reverend Doctor, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Stay with us. I thank you for staying with us. I am starting a new segment on my show entitled Smiley's Best. This is where I put a spotlight on individuals doing some great things in our community. And our first individual to kick off is Dr. Sean A. Smith. Dr. Smith is a native of Indianapolis, Indiana. He received his formal education from the Indianapolis Public School System and received his Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education and Master's degree in Education from Indiana University, Bloomington. Dr. Smith completed an EDS and a PhD from Indiana State University in Educational Leadership. Upon completion of the Bachelor of Science degree program, he taught in Indianapolis Public Schools as well as the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township School System. In 2003, he left Washington Township to join the Metropolitan School District of Pike Township to be the principal of the Pike High School Freshman Center, opening a new center in fall of 2004, serving 850 students. During his time at Pike Township, he has served as a principal, director of student and community services, and current position as assistant superintendent of secondary education. He has also served on numerous district committees. Dr. Smith has 25 years of experience in the field of education, and today he is still a passionate educator whose first love is teaching social studies. Dr. Smith currently serves on the following community boards: Central Indiana Boy Scouts Advisory Board and the Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis Library Board. He also served as president of the Indiana University School of Education Alumni Board from 2009 to 2011. He is also a life member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. He is not only committed to educating students and serving the community, he is also dedicated to his family, Tabitha Smith, his wife for 21 years, and his 3 children, Olivia, Maya, and Jordan. Dr. Smith, we thank you and keep up the good work.